Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Tuesday, March 20th, 2018. I'm Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. There are some shows where we hurt for content. This is not one of them. We welcome in Duane Long for another edition of Ask Duane. You have submitted a ton of great questions on the front row. And then Samson James, the running back out of Indiana and apple of Ohio State's eye, committed to the Buckeyes yesterday, so we are loaded with good news. Duane, how are you this fine morning?
I'm feeling great after getting this really top-notch commitment. Couldn't be happier about Samson James.
I will admit that I have a little bit of angst about adding a running back from Indiana after the Rod Smith experience. I have been assured by Steve Wiltfong, himself an Indiana native, that Samson James is the real deal. Of course, Samson James, best running back in Indiana, number 8 running back in the country, committed to the Buckeyes yesterday. 6'1", 211 pounds, came to visit and left a Buckeye. What is your impression of Samson James? Maybe talk about how you see him as a college back, and then how it affects, running back recruiting.
I've been watching this guy just recently. I've watched his film several times, and in fact, I watched it yesterday because an item came up on the boards, and we were talking about him. And every time I see him, I'm even more impressed with what kind of back he is when I really focus on him. This is a guy 6'1", 210 already. Great looking frame on him, so he can add another 10 pounds, and he'll be just as fast, just as athletic. He's got that burst, that thing where he hits the line, he's gone. I mean, you got to go get him. And he's got better top-end speed than most guys his size. He's elusive enough. Mostly he's got really good vision. He's going to hit the hole and bang. I mean, he's gone. He really does he's an impressive guy. I know he's top 8 on the composite, but for me, he's a top 5 back in the country. I couldn't be more impressed with him. As I said, he's got some elusiveness. He's not just another big back who is just depending on being able to run through tackles. And he does have that explosion where, bang, in 3 steps, he's at top speed. So we got ourselves a really outstanding back. And it's a better class than last year overall. I think you can go down to 10 guys that any school in the country would want. As far as how it affects running back recruiting, I mean, we got 2 guys in here this year, 2 really outstanding backs. And before anyone asks, I tell you, I would take Sampson James over either one of Snead or Teague. I'm that impressed with him. He's just that impressive. As far as going forward, we'll see what happens. I mean, we've got a couple other kids out there that we're looking at, including the number 2 guy, Noah Kane. I can't see where Noah Kane is so much better than Samson James that you actually feel the need to go out and get another back. We could be fine just sitting on one here. He's that good. They show him several times catching the ball. He catches the ball very naturally out of the backfield.
Yeah, we'll have a boarding house item today about his blocking ability. Very interesting combination of size and speed, almost your prototypical NFL back if he can keep it all together. Very impressive. Not a surprise. We've long thought he was going to be a Buckeye. Always love it when a guy commits on a visit. Was equally impressed by the fact that one of the guys tipped the scales in his favor was Antonio Williams. So that lets you know behind the scenes that even guys who aren't playing have bought in. Now we will move on to the award-winning portion of the show, Ask Duane. A couple days ago, on St. Paddy's Day, we put a thread on the BM5 and said, you steer the show. I'm going to pass along the questions. Some of them are similar, so we'll fuse them. Question 1, actually, I will answer. Is the long view ever coming back on a consistent basis? Duane used to put together a column for us called The Long View. Will it ever become a consistent thing again? I'm not sure we have plans for that, but as long as he was never too far away if Duane is here. Okay, let's get into the meat of it. Shocker, the first question. There's a series of questions, and you can just hammer these out as you go here. Who does Duane want at quarterback? Who does Duane think will win the quarterback derby? And has Urban's offensive philosophy evolved so that the quarterback run will be basically gone from the system? So who does Duane want as quarterback? Who does Duane think will be the quarterback? And the philosophical question we've been asking lately.
I've said on the message boards that Dwayne Haskins. I want the bigger arm. I want the guy that can, we add pages to the playbook because he can put the ball in there. He can fit it into windows. He can get it down the field more. I love the gunslinger mentality. That's one thing I always loved about Brett Favre. If Brett Favre threw 5 interceptions in a row, he wasn't going to hesitate to throw the next ball. And that's what I see in Haskins. I mean, we've seen the daring in this kid. He comes in the Michigan game. We're in a struggle. We're at Michigan, hostile crowd, fast defense. And he comes in and just cools the other side of the pillow. This kid takes us down the field, and we pull away from Michigan. And it's on his arm, not his legs. So I'm a Haskins guy. See, here's my thing about quarterbacks and running. I don't need a running quarterback. What I need is a quarterback that can give me 3 elements with athleticism. 1, he can avoid the rush. 2, he can keep a play alive. And 3, if the field opens up, he can go get his first down. I don't need a guy that's a running threat. I need a guy that's an effective runner. And that Haskins proved that. When the pocket broke down against Michigan, he took it down inside the 5-yard line. So, the running quarterback, to me, is too often a guy who's going to take off. Pocket breaks down, he's gone. I want a guy who's going to stand in there, and instead of trying to run for 10 yards, he sees a guy 10 yards down the field and throws him the ball. So I am inclined to go with that kind of guy. I think we've got plenty enough athleticism in Haskins to do that kind of thing, to be an effective running quarterback while being a passer. I've had the zone read. I've had enough. It's just here's the thing, Dan. You've got 5 offensive linemen and 6 skill players on the field about 99% of the time. Sometimes you'll go throw an extra lineman on the field, short yardage or whatever. But that's it. You've got 5 linemen and you've got 6 skill players. Why is the least athletic guy of your skill players the one carrying the ball 12 to 15 times a game? I'm tired of quarterback runs, whether it be zone read or quarterback draw, some kind of called quarterback run. It's just killing me. And it's not, if you look around college football, who's winning with a quarterback that's run first? Who's winning championships with quarterbacks that runs first? I mean, there you'll see them pop up every now and then, just like last year with Alabama. What happened? At the end of the game, they put in a kid who was going to throw the football, and they won the national championship. They sat down the kid who was a run, well, I call him run only. He's a terrible thrower. And won a national championship. So I'm going with that. Also, as far as philosophy is concerned, there's something very important you have to look at. First is bringing Haskins in here. Nobody brought Dwayne Haskins. Nobody out there recruited Dwayne Haskins to run the zone read. Nobody did. So that's first. Second, look at who we're offering now, and look at who we're offering in the future. Grant Gunnell is a pretty athletic guy for a big guy. He moves around pretty good, but he's not going to run his own read for you. That's not what he's going to do. And even further, Jack Miller, who I think is the best high school quarterback in the country next year, even though he's only going to be a sophomore or junior. He's another kid that's very athletic, but he's not somebody that's going to run the zone read. He's being brought in to throw the football. So, and then we've got Kevin Wilson. you look at his history with quarterbacks, his quarterbacks didn't run the ball. So I think maybe we're seeing a break in this. The kind of quarterbacks we're recruiting are just not running guys. They're throwing guys. So I think we may be seeing a change in philosophy, and it's one that I so very much welcome, and I think a lot of the Buckeye fans will too. Because we haven't – think about this, another thing. We've had probably the best running quarterback at Ohio State ever in Braxton Miller. And then we had J.T. Barrett. But we won a national championship with a quarterback who was going to stand back there and throw the football. Cardell Jones absolutely ripped up college football in those 3 games, throwing the ball down the field. That's the game these days. That's what that. I mean, look at the NFL. Running backs have become so devalued. It's really shocking to see. It's all about quarterbacks and throwing the football, getting the ball down the field. And like I said, that's how we won a national championship. Look at Deshaun Watson came in and just threw the ball down the field and won a national championship. Alabama pulled a national championship out of the hat when they put a throwing quarterback in. Enough. Let's throw the football.
Yeah, it's hard to argue, and I think we both agree that Haskins will win the job as we look at it right now. A lot of the questions, shocker, came in from Duane about the offensive line. They essentially boiled down to 2 questions. What would Duane's starting offensive line be? And what does he think the actual starting offensive line will be? If they're one and the same, that's fine. But break it all down for us.
Okay, well, I think it's pretty well set that Isaiah Prince is going to be on the left side and Munford is installed on the right side. I don't think we can really say anything. Anytime, you eventually got to put the pads on and hit, and that's where you really, brass tacks comes out, is who can play football. But these guys have stepped in there, and they're looking like the starting tackles, and we're not hearing anything. None of us who do this for a living are hearing anything. It's just somebody's creeping up. Those are the 2 tackles. Then you've got Michael Jordan, who's installed on the left side on a guard. He's going to stay there. Just talk about him kicking out the tackle. I never thought it. You can go back on the boards and find. I always said he was a guard. He was not going to be a tackle, and now he's going into his 3rd year. He's a tackle or a guard. At center and the other guard spot, we're unsettled. Now, we don't know what's going on with Bowen. He's coming off a broken leg, broken ankle. We don't know what's going on there. Demetrius Knox played well at the end of the year. Got off to a shaky start, but he really came on and was solid in there. And center, we got Brady Taylor. I don't know about that, and here's why. We didn't move Pat Elflein to center until right before his senior year, the spring before his senior year. We didn't move Billy Price to center until right before his start at junior year, the spring before his junior year, which was his final year. But we've already put 2 more highly rated guys in at center behind Brady Taylor. So you can't argue that, they're just there getting prepared for next year. That just seems unsettled to me. And, with Josh Myers, he's got one of the most dominating run blockers that we've seen in the state of Ohio in years. He just is a monster. So they move him in there. We know that Matthew Burrell has been put in there too. So it just seems like they're not completely satisfied with that. And it's not going to surprise me if by the time the season starts we see Myers or Burrell in there. Now, the one thing Brady Taylor's got going for him, he's been a center now for 3 years. He has been, this will be his 3rd year at center. So he's got all the line calls down. He's learned from the back-to-back guys that were the best center in college football. So he does have that experience thing going for him that could be the difference. So, he very well hang on to the job, but I'm going with Josh Myers and Matthew Burrell at center. And at right guard, I'm going to stick with Demetrius Knox until Bowen shows that he's over the injury and ready to take over the job again. I'm going with what I consider to be the incumbent who, we didn't see anything that he should lose his job over. So I'm going Demetrius Knox in there.
Next question. Duane, what is your assessment of coaching staff members Bill Davis and Zach Smith? The implication of the question is those are the two personal ties to Urban, and they may be the questionable guys on the staff. Not sure I agree, but what's your assessment of the performance of Bill Davis and Zach Smith?
Well, I'll start with Bill Davis because it's really simple with me. Let's just say that, Urban Meyer gives him 2 years. Well, I do too. I mean, let's not evaluate a guy on 1 year. I mean, we know the linebackers were a really weak link this past year. They were. But let's give a guy 2 years before we make an assessment on him. Don't like where we're at right now. I can tell you that. Don't like where we were when we gave up, 60 against Iowa. I mean, that was, and linebackers played so poorly in that game. It's just hard to believe that those were Ohio State linebackers. As far as Zach Smith's concerned, I go back to something Alpha said, which I think is important in this. We're getting recruits, and Zach Smith has everything to do with that. And we got guys in the NFL, and that's the thing. What's going on while they're here? I think the receivers have underperformed consistently. Now, whether that's the way the offense is being called, or whether it's Zach Smith's coaching or not, I mean, it's how do you get guys to the NFL if you don't recruit talent and they're just not very good receivers? Apparently, they are. So let's let's come back to that again after the year, after we've had Kevin Wilson running his version of the Ohio State offense. I know we're going to have some quarterback runs in there. That's just Urban Meyer. He can't get away from it. That's what he's won 3 national championships with. He's had 1,000-yard rushers at quarterback. But, let's let Kevin Wilson get his more of his playbook into the lineup. Let's get a quarterback who is confident throwing the ball. That's one thing I love about Haskins is he's going to throw it. Let's see what happens with these receivers when we get more of a passing offense in there with a quarterback who's got the confidence to put the ball in there sometimes when it isn't necessarily the clearest window. Like we say, he throws people open. Threw Austin Mack open last year in a Michigan game. So that's who Dwayne Haskins is. Let's see what happens.
It's a good point. I think we need to reserve judgment on Smith, at least for the receivers for this year. I'd like to see these guys in a more passing-oriented offense, like you mentioned. It's funny you mentioned Austin Mack. It's not like news, but I really think that's one player who you will see blossom this year in an offense better suited to his talents. So we shall see. This is right up your alley here, Duane. Which offensive tackle do you like better? Thankfully, both are Ohio State targets. The top tackle in the class of 2019, West Virginia's Darnell Wright, or the top tackle in the class of 2020, Cincinnati's very own Paris Johnson?
Oh, man, what a question. There were some great questions in there, by the way. It was hard to
they were.
Find some. The fans did a really good job. Wow.
Let's just say here, though, this is not one of the questions where there's a wrong answer.
Yeah, those are two guys. We got the number one guy in this class, in the class of 18. We're leading for the number one guy in the class of 2019. And let's make it a trifecta and get the number one guy in 2020. I mean, if I had to take one, if I had a gun to my head, I think Wright's just a little bit more athletic, but he's also a year older. So just, I hate going between them like that, but I definitely want both of them. But right now, these big guys, they come along so much slower, Dan. That year can mean, look at Munford. Munford, when I saw him as a junior, I said, why are we even in touch with this kid? This kid, he's bending at the waist, he's reaching, he's not moving his feet, he's overweight. What are we doing even talking to this kid? And then I see his senior year tape, and I actually said, are you kidding? This is the same kid? That's not the same kid. This is, the film is, they've identified the wrong guy. This is somebody else's film. I really said that. That's how much difference in 1 year. These big kids, you're talking about massive bodies, and they're teenagers. It's not easy, and they take longer to mature. Anything can happen in that year. So Johnson, I could be saying, yeah, at this point he's better than Wright, but right now I'll go with Wright.
Keep this in mind, Bucknutters. This is never a question Ohio State would have to answer. If Darnell Wright and Paris Johnson both wanted in, there would be some salary cap realignment. Someone else on the roster would get pushed off. So that's a great question to ask. It will never take place because those guys will definitely be on the team if they want to be on it. You're going to see someone transfer or have a career-ending injury if that happens. Moving on, who is Duane? Give me a break. If you don't know that, why are you even here? Kerry Combs is gone. How bad will it hurt DB recruiting?
Oh, man. I'm just going to say it. Yeah, it's going to hurt. The guy was just one of those guys that got people fired up. And we had a video on there right around the time he left of him giving a speech to a bunch of recruits right at the end of their visit. And if it didn't have you clapping your hands and cheering, then you're not a Buckeye fan. It was just incredible, the passion this guy had, and just the commitment to excellence and to team and family. He was just kind of special. And we know that, that's going to be missing. It just is. So let's hope that we can come in, and I'm trying to remember the new guy's name.
Alex Grinch.
Yes, Grinch. Let's hope that, there was some things that they said, well, he's got some work to do as far as being a recruiter. Well, let's hope he's a fast study and he can get up to speed. We're still in need of defensive backs, and he can come in and at least be a good one. Maybe, I don't know if we can expect him to be a Combs. We'll see. I know that reports coming from spring said that he's got that intensity about him too, that he gets after it. He really coaches them up. So hopefully that'll translate over to recruiting, and he can pick up where Combs left off.
It'd be hard-pressed to say someone's going to be better than Kerry Combs. You look at the run he just had with defensive backs, there are many millionaires that would sing his praises. I heard a report last night that Denzel Ward could move up to as high as number 4 in the draft to the Browns, especially because of the way Marshawn Lattimore played. So guys under Kerry Combs got it done on the field and are getting it done on the 1st and the 15th as well. So I just couldn't say anybody's going to be better. Now, I'd like to be proven wrong, but Combs had a real nice run here. The Bellbrook guy who did some work in Cincy, so had the roots as well. All right, off topic quickly. Duane, for Gary and Arizona's taste, bourbon is on the sweet side. He prefers rye or Canadian. Any rye you could recommend? For those who don't know, Duane is a whiskey aficionado. Go ahead.
I have had just 3 or 4 ryes. There's not a lot of them out there. Actually, when I was looking around after seeing that question, there were more than I thought there were, but there's nothing like bourbon and scotch. But the one that I had that stood out is an old classic. Been around forever. It's called Old Overholt. As I said, I've had 3 or 4 of them, and I liked them. But Old Overholt was just another level. Another thing that someone might want to try, it's a bourbon. It's called Old Grandad. Now, it's got a rye-heavy, what they call mash bill. So it's a bourbon. There's another in the Old Grandad line. It's called Old Grandad 114. Now, you don't see it often, but it is intense, and again, it's heavy rye. So those would be the ones I'd mentioned, Old Overholt and Old Grandad Bourbon that's got the heavy rye mash bill.
I know a lot of you were impressed after that answer. I'll just let that one lie there. Duane, have you ever seen NCAA basketball tournament officiating as pathetic as it has been this year?
Oh, hell no. That was ridiculous. The guy that got fouled, the ball ended up in another guy's hands, and they let the 80-some% foul shooter shoot the foul shots at the end of which game was that? I believe it was it Auburn? At the end of the game, the guy that got fouled is a big, and he's like a 60-some% foul shooter, and the refs let the guy the guard who shoots 80-some%, shoot the foul shots, and Auburn won the game. It was awful. That was just one example. I'm watching this and I'm going, what is going on out here? You know, they wouldn't let Ted Valentine do the tournament. Ted Valentine may be too much of a showboat, but at least he gets it right most of the time. It was awful so far.
Yeah, I don't think officiating has progressed the way the quality of play has over the last 10 or 15 years. And that's across the board into the youth level as well. So I don't want to sit here and hack on refs, but just, man, I understand basketball is a hard sport to ref and guys are getting bigger, stronger, and faster, but it's been bad. Okay, let's see here. We know Duane loves Manelli's. We appreciate Dave dropping that in there. Best meatball sub in Ohio I've had, no question, Manelli's. Couple in Columbus. Get out there. Here we go. Here's a good one. Duane, how do you see Linebacker shaking out this season? Who would you like to win the jobs? How do you see the group performing compared to last season? And are you concerned about Tough Borland's athleticism in the middle?
I'll take the second there first. I'm very concerned about Tough Borland. I every time I see him on the field and the quarterback go back to pass, I grit my teeth. I don't want him in coverage. I don't think he's ever going to be a good pass defender. And in this day and age, linebackers have to be good pass defenders. No, I'm not excited about that at all. There are some games that he's going to be better than others when he can just come downhill. He's a pretty solid football player. But I was never a big fan of his coming out of high school. Thought he was a reach. And against the pass, he still is a reach. It's just not a good situation. But what I would like to see, just put the 3 best athletes we've got out there and let them run to the football. Let them make plays. Let them learn to play in space. Put Browning on the field in the middle. On one side of him, put Keandre Jones. And on the other side, put Malik Harrison. You wanna. I've always been a big fan of Justin Hilliard. You want to put him in there, one of the spots somewhere. But those four guys should be up there. Pete Warner, I'm ready to take a look at him. But the one guy that I'm just not all that excited about, I see his downside too much, is Tough Borland. Not a big fan.
Yeah, we're going to end it there. There were a lot of great questions. I'll just give my 2 cents here. Browning and Keandre Jones have to be on the field. If they aren't, I'm going to be concerned, and I would almost start to move towards coaching as an issue there. Baron Browning needs to play, and Keandre Jones need to play. They got to get those playmakers on the field. There were big expectations for both guys. They got to get on the field. We appreciate Duane stopping by, man. That is a power-packed show. We appreciate Samson James for timing his commitment correctly. If there's some leftover questions here, we will answer them next week. We will do this at least once a month in the off season. Have a good one, Bucknutters.